Again, my name is Peggy Compton, and I'm an extension specialist in Wisconsin and a member of Epsilon Sigma Phi, which is a national professional development organization for extension. I'm a member of the Professional Development Committee within ESP, or Epsilon Sigma Phi. ESP supports the extension profession as well as those who work in extension. We have chapters in most states. Our membership includes active and retired professionals, educators, and administrators from all program and topical areas. So we are an extension organization that basically anybody who is currently in extension or was in extension and has retired can be part of. One of our goals as an organization is to provide professional development opportunities to our members and other extension colleagues as well in general, and this webinar is one of our ways of doing that. We also will have a series of webinars in September, and we have our national conference coming up in October, so check that out. I'll put a link in the chat box to our national ESP website. With that, I would like to get right to introducing our presenter today. I'm super excited to welcome Amy from Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service. She's been there since 2013 as the Digital Media Program Director, where she manages extension digital media efforts, including website, social media, web and mobile app development, and e-newsletters. She has a background in digital media project management, having worked at an Arkansas-based web design and app development firm for 8 years. Prior to that, she was a graphic artist for about 7 years and is currently pursuing her master's degree in professional and technical writing from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. In her limited spare time, which I can imagine, having just read all the things she's involved in, she enjoys running, weightlifting, baking, singing karaoke. I wish we had time for a little bit of that today, and spending time with her family, which includes her husband, Jeremy, and their 2 daughters, Rowan, 13, and Riley, 11. So Amy, thanks for being here, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Mark and Peggy. And I did want to sing along with that B-52 song. I remember that vividly. You know, in my past life, I did dance around to that song a couple of times. So I have a lot to cover today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And today we are covering a lot of different topics, and I'm just going to dive right on in. I have designed this presentation to hit the high points of several different areas, and hopefully I will cover a topic that is near and dear to your heart or something that you're really interested in. I'm going to start with web pages, which is really my primary area of expertise. Understanding your audience is going to be key for success in anything that you're doing, anything marketing related or anything programming related, really. Free graphic software, I'm going to light on that a little bit. E-newsletters, some top tips. I can't get too much into each one of these topics, so I've picked the highlights. Social media is going to be probably the bulk of what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to cover a few different topics in social media, some ideas for paid media possibly, if you can go that route, and some success stories that we've had. So I also work on a team, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some free collaboration software that we've used to make it sort of a team effort here. And finally, I'm going to cover accessibility, because this is something that we're really pushing, and I've done some research for my master's degree in accessibility specifically, and so this is a topic that I'm pretty interested in as well, and like to share some tips for you as well. So web-centric digital marketing is what we're going to talk about first, and I think we have a little bit of time for a quick poll. So the question of the hour is, do you have the ability to update content on your extension website? For example, do you have a content management system that you can actually go in and edit the content? So this is going to help me gear a little bit of what I'm talking about for the next couple of slides at least.
All right, I've launched that poll, folks. We'll just take another 5 or 10 seconds. Okay. And Amy, can you see those?
Oh, great. Okay. Okay, so most of you can edit your website. Great. I'm hoping that the rest of you who can't at least have an avenue to get it updated. So at least this will give you a little bit of a rubric to figure out what you should do to communicate with those people who can update your website for you. Before you begin anything digital marketing related, honestly, any marketing at all, you need to go to your webpage where your content is and make sure it's actually ready for visitors. By that, I mean, you need to ask yourself a few questions. So what is their age? It's going to determine what kind of device they're using. Their gender also matters. How reliable is their internet connection specifically? Is it really hard for them to download content? Is it a really lousy, slow connection? And then what is the reading level? You're going to want to know what you're reading, how to write for the reading level. I know we have a lot of PhDs out there at our extension service that love to write for other PhDs, but that might not be appropriate for the audience they're trying to reach. So think about that when you're really looking critically at your web pages, and see if you can get someone who is in your general demographic to actually test the website themselves. So when in doubt, if you have the opportunity to, this was another question I thought about asking, if you have website analytics, we use a program called Site Improve. We also have Google Analytics, and both of these, or either of these, are going to be really insightful. The page that I pulled this data from shows that this page in particular is mobile. The heaviest users are using mobile, and that means you need to open up your web page on a mobile device and look at it. Don't ignore mobile. Really, even if your audience isn't primarily mobile, somebody's looking at it on mobile, and it's going to matter how it looks. You're going to want to make sure each page has a CTA, a call to action. These are each going to be an action word, a verb. So you're going to have to tell them what to do. Typically in extension, we're really kind of bad about being passive and say, here's the information, read it if you want to, but you don't have to. But really, on a website, everybody's attention is all over the place, and you're going to have to tell them exactly what you want them to do when they come to your page. And I found this to be really, really effective for tracking engagement. Is somebody actually reading your content? And if so, are they taking an action? This isn't just for web pages. This is for social media. This is for e-newsletters. This is going to be a recurring theme throughout this presentation. So just make sure you think about, is your web page directing somebody a little more forcefully than you even might be comfortable with? I'm going to kind of follow a bee theme here. We have an apiculturalist, the bee guy. We call him the bee guy. This is his page. He's got very, very popular content. It's a little bit buried in our website, so I'm working on changing that. So I looked at this page on mobile, for example. This is what the page looked like originally. Kind of looking at it, I don't necessarily see a call to action, per se. I see some good links that I want to click on, but maybe not a call to action. The page loaded okay for me. I think I could improve that a little bit. And also, the main thing is also, is the content easily scanned? Can I get what I need from the page without having to go through a wall of text? So those are a few different things you're going to want to look really critically at your pages and take a look at. And then again, of course, how does it look on mobile? As you can see, this is a screenshot from my iPhone. It looks pretty good. We have some responsive design templates on our site, so it looks all right. I did just a few tweaks to it, though. I went in, I made the picture a little bit smaller so it would load faster, and then I changed the wording just a little bit. So instead of getting started, which is a little bit passive, it's get started. So you're telling them, do something, get started, take a beekeeping class, explore honeybees. So I added a verb in front of each one of those. So you can see if I'm getting on this page, it's a little more clear what I'm wanting you to do, because we just want to make sure it's just a few different word changes, then you can really improve the engagement on your web pages. So also with mobile experience, you're going to want to make sure that if you create a button or a link or something, make sure it's big enough for them to click with their finger. We're kind of guilty of this on our site. Some of our links are a little bit too small. So just make sure that if you can, if it's clickable, because some people have to pinch and zoom and get in there. If you can at all, make it big enough for them to see and then click, because some of our users are also limited with vision. And so it's important to make it really obvious what you want them to do. Another option, if it's more text heavy and you don't have a lot of graphics options, people are coming to Extension for help. They're coming for answers. And so if you craft your content in such a way that it's something like they're going to speak, you know, hey Siri, how much time is involved in beekeeping? Well, if you have that sentence somewhere on your web page, then it might be more it's an opportunity for Google and other search devices to find your content. But also, if I'm scanning this page, like, oh yeah, I'm wondering, what is the cost of beekeeping? And it just makes it that much more obvious to find that content. This is just a little bit of an aside. There are other link shorteners out there. We use Bitly because, as you can see, we have super long links, especially for some of our pages. This is just a crazy long URL. So if I'm going to make this on top of an image or a graphic or something, I just shorten it down a little bit. As we're going to cover a little bit later, this also helps for accessibility, because if a screen reader hits that URL, it cannot even figure out what that long URL says. So if you shorten it a little bit, it's going to make it that much easier, more accessible, and just easier on everybody. So a little bit of a checklist recap. You check your analytics if you can. Find somebody who can get your analytics for you if at all possible. Tell the person who's coming to your page what you want them to do. Be bossy. Don't worry about being bossy. Just do it, because you're fighting for attention from other websites that have a lot of money for a marketing team. And if you're the only marketing team person, then you just want to be as direct and assertive as possible. And also, is the content scannable? Can I get what's coming from this web page in just a couple of seconds, because I'm impatient and I want to know what's going on? Making a slight turn, thinking about audience. I put this after the website because the website should just be standard. You should always be making sure your website is up to date and user-friendly. But now, if you're thinking about branching off into other platforms, say, you know what, I have a little bit of time, I can pick a platform, then you're going to want to spend your time wisely. There is no magic bullet. No single digital media effort will reach everybody. It just is not going to. Successful event marketing specifically is multifaceted. And so it may not be what you want to hear, but that is what we have found here. And it really depends on your audience. So the one thing that you're going to want to do is ask them, if you can, how do you want me to reach out to you? Not everybody's necessarily on social media, and not everybody really checks email. And so you're going to have to ask them, you know what, I think my audience is probably on Facebook. You might be surprised. We've found that not everybody from our extension service, our clients, they're not all on Facebook. They're on different platforms. So it's important to ask them where they are and find out how they'd like to be reached. This is going to allow you to make more informed decisions. So you don't have a bunch of time. You don't have a bunch of staff. Everything's being cut all over the place at the time. So you've got to be really judicious about what you choose to do. So maybe you should choose social media. Maybe you shouldn't. This is going to be a critical decision-making process. Just because social media exists doesn't mean you have to be on it. And I tell everybody that if you don't think you have time to update a Facebook page more than a couple of times a week, I probably would have mentioned to you, just don't try it out, because it's better to have, it's worse to have a defunct or outdated social media account than to not have one at all. So also before you start, have a goal. Just try and figure out, what is your goal? Is it to, what can your program offer clients that they're not currently getting now, or maybe they're having to pay for and they can get for lower cost? Do you want to establish a relationship with your clients? Do you want to have a narrative going on with them? Or do you just want to let them know you exist? You could have a specific event that you want to feature. So all of those things are going to combine to make you make those decisions and put more time into the things that matter. So with regards to actually crafting content, we have found some free design tools. Some of y'all might be already familiar with this. If you are, just maybe to put into the chat some of the things that you found with some of your tools. You might have found some that work better. And this is just sort of an open dialogue to share some ideas. So they all have templates. Most of these third parties, they have templates. Try to use your photos, though. People can sniff out a stock photo a mile away. And so if at all possible, get photos that are original, that maybe even have a local landmark or something. Use your logo, please. we have created some great graphics, and I've been very happy if they've gone viral that they had our logo on it or a URL on it. It's very, very helpful. And also, again, URL. Like I said, if you use those link shorteners, you can create a shorter URL that isn't quite as obnoxious as some of the long ones. So those are some tips that you can make. And then we'll talk a little bit about accessibility for images later and how you need to reiterate that in your content if you're posting on social media specifically. So Canva is a tool that I use. We use this fairly regularly. I have found that Canva is really, really great because I have the entire Adobe suite. I'm very prolific in it, but it is kind of bad when you are getting to the point of trying to size it. Social media changes their size restrictions all the time. Cover photo changes, everything changes. So when you're coming through and making a graphic for social media, make sure that it's the right size. Otherwise, stuff gets cut off. I found that out the hard way. So for these are, we have beekeeping classes that are free. And John Z, our social media, our bee guy, he is not actually on social media. And so, well, at least he's not on Facebook. So he doesn't have a Facebook page to do this himself. So we went ahead and created these graphics for him. On one, you can see I have where it is. This class is in the Rock. This is a phone number. There's no online registration, which we're working on, creating an online registration. We're telling you it's a 3-part course. You got to show up to all of them. It has our logo on one, the URL on the other. So I'm getting some sort of brand awareness on both of these. And so they're 2 different classes. And of course, I put his picture on the other one. I created both of these in Canva. It didn't really take me too long. I did use a stock image of the bees because I personally am not getting that close to bees to take pictures of them. I'm sure he probably had some pictures of bees he would have shared with me. But anyway, these are some really good graphics that we created, and they had a pretty good response as well. This is a sort of a little tableau of all of our content. Not all of it, this is just some of it. So you can see that I've taken some fact sheets and put them into planting guides, plant sales, tips for weeding your garden. And I've found that personally, if we use the state of Arkansas in our graphics, it gets more shares and more likes and comments because we're reaching our intended audience. Because honestly, we're out to reach the people of Arkansas. So I've gone in and added that state outline. If you have a communications team, I encourage you to try and get some sort of graphic that's like an EPS file or a PNG file that you can use in your graphics, because people, at least in Arkansas, are kind of thirsty for content that is very targeted to them and not really broad. So this is what's been helpful for us. Adobe Spark is another one. Like I said, I have the entire Adobe suite. So Adobe Spark is free for me. There is a free Adobe Spark if you don't have the entire Adobe suite. I have found it's really great for, I guess, more artsy pictures, for the lack of a better word. It does pretty well, but I am not as big a fan. I have a little comparison between Canva and Adobe Spark. Image sizing, fantastic with Canva. Quality stock photos, Spark beats Canva for me. And then text customization is so much better in Canva. It's a little more rigid than I prefer in Adobe Spark, but Adobe Spark also has the ability to create web pages and video. So it really depends on your needs, but I have found I've used both, and I just go back to Canva pretty much every time. So you can, the payment for pricing for Adobe Spark, it's about $10 a month. I think it's about $12 for Canva. And I've heard anecdotally that paying for Canva isn't worth as much as they thought they would get out of it. So it really is up to you. But if you don't have a budget, free is always good. So anyway, if you try Canva and you don't like it, maybe try Adobe Spark. Some additional tools, PicMonkey. I'm a huge fan of PicMonkey. I created this little fun logo for our newsletter using it. Pixlr, image editing. I didn't write it down here, but GIMP is another one, gimp.org. They've been doing free image editing for years, and it's like downloadable software, and it's really great. Pictochart, if you want to create an infographic, you can also do this in Canva, but I found that, again, Canva is just great for me, but Pictochart is a little bit more tailored for infographics and slides and stuff like that. So e-newsletter marketing, all of these tools I've used for, most of those tools I've learned for creating graphics for e-newsletters, and we're about to have another quick poll. I know it's near lunchtime for some people, so wake up and take a poll. So have you used e-newsletter marketing to market for your programs? Have you tried any kind of e-newsletter marketing? You know, My Emma, MailChimp, Constant Contact, any of those?
Okay, I see results coming in. We'll take another 5 seconds. Still coming. Okay.
Okay, almost about half and half. So about 55% said yes, 45% said no. So that's a really good information to have. So e-newsletter marketing is effective. If you're considering e-newsletter marketing and you haven't tried it, there could be some barriers to it. You know, who's going to pay for it, that kind of thing. I'll cover how we got over that hurdle. So email is actually pretty darn effective. If you think, well, I'm not going to use it, I'm just going to use social media. Here is some data about email versus Facebook and Twitter. And this chart actually goes a lot further. This little source URL down here will tell you a little bit more about it. But everybody has email. Not everybody's on social media. The other thing that I found with email is that people will sign up for an e-newsletter list because they want to hear from you. So they're not giving away their email address just to anybody. So they're actually wanting information from you. And they want to know directly from you, hear from you because you're the expert, or there's something relevant or local that they want to find out. So email is not dead. And in fact, young people are actually on email because you have to have an email address to sign up for a lot of these social media accounts. So just consider this. If you haven't thought about it for your marketing program, you might consider it. So we use Constant Contact here at Arkansas Extension. We have a little over 12,000 active contacts. That means they're not bounced or anything like that. Our counties are specialists. They all use it. Not all of them, but most of them do, or many of them do. We have one account. Some of the specialists have their own separate account, but everybody uses the same login. It's really only caused problems once or twice, but what's beautiful about it is that people can see what other counties are doing, and it's worked really well. It's not integrated with our internal email lists like Office 365, but you can create events. RSVPs is a new feature in Constant Contact that I love, or surveys. This is a screenshot of our sign-up page for, so somebody can come in and sign up and get information about statewide news or a local county news, or if they're in a county, they can sign up for other news. And so this was just one of our developers here kind of went in, used their API and set this page up as a PHP form page. And so anytime a county might add a list like Ashley County, it'll automatically populate here. So it's actually pretty neat. So Constant Contact is great for tracking engagement. I know a lot of different programs are kind of required to produce newsletters. They might be doing it in print. And so one thing I've noticed is that some people, not that this particular newsletter wasn't engaging, it's just that maybe they didn't have something for someone to click on. This goes back to that call to action idea I talked about earlier. So if you don't have something for somebody to click on, how are you going to know if they actually read it? They might have opened it, but you don't know if they actually read it or took action based on what you sent them. So I really encourage you, if you do try e-newsletter marketing, to have something for someone to do. Also, writing engaging subject lines. The newsletters are kind of hard to get open sometimes. So if you can create a sense of urgency, like a limited seating, register now, use the word free. We have done that quite a few times, and we found that because some of your events or programs might actually have limited seating, and so only 5 spots left. Hurry now. So those are the kinds of things you can write to create a sense of urgency. The second thing to consider is the from name. If you're a specialist in your area and people kind of know you as a specialist in water conservation or something, then they're going to want to hear from you. They're not going to hear from info at or someone they don't know. So for this free beekeeping class in Russellville, then they know, oh, I know Joanne. She's my agent. That's awesome. So I know her. I'm not going to delete this email because I want to hear from Joanne. So make sure that it comes from someone with like a real name and a real address, because this is really like a knock on their door saying, hey, it's Joanne. And so if they're going to decide whether or not they open that email or delete it or whatever. And also, I beg of you, keep it short. Just don't put everything in an email body. Ideally, you will have this event information somewhere on your website that has way more details, so you don't have to overload somebody. I know I've seen some of these newsletters, bless their hearts, but they have written very, very, very long e-newsletters, and nobody wants to read that. I don't want to read that. And so just give me the highlights. It's free. Are you coming or not? I give you the date, the location, just let me know. And so this RSVP feature is wonderful, and we've had a lot of success with the RSVP feature just to kind of get a head count so they can find out how much equipment to have. Little rundown of the checklist. Subject line, very, very, very important. I argue that this is important for any email that you send. There are some people here who tend to send emails with no subject line at all. And then it's like, well, what am I about to click on? So please just add a subject line that's relevant. Use a recognizable from name when you're sending to people. And then please give them something to click on. Give me something to do. Otherwise, I'm not really sure why you're sending me this email. Just an FYI is not really a great reason to send an email unless you're just reminding somebody of something. So I know eExtension has a lot of training out there, but we've also done some training here in case you're curious more about specifically Constant Contact. So we've got some training on our website. Just because I couldn't cover everything here today, I wanted to give you the opportunity. And we can, I guess probably, Mark, we can figure out a way to get links to people if they want to list the links later on.
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
Before you move on, we have a question that Christine asks, and she says, using email doesn't reach the youth for them to bug their parents to go to the activities. How do paper newsletters compare?
So for paper newsletters, that's a good question. The thing is, we don't really have any stats for paper because, anecdotally, we have some people in some counties that really, really like paper newsletters. It really depends. Typically for us, it's kind of the older people. Sometimes if you've got a long calendar of events coming, like for 4-H, sometimes that might be worth it to have it in a print that you might email them just that so they can kind of pin it on the refrigerator or something. But for the youth, the way that we've gotten around that is, I hate to say it, but Snapchat. Snapchat and Instagram. And you kind of let people know about, the young people know about the events there. And this is probably going to sound overwhelming, but also if you send a newsletter, but also if you put it on social media, it's kind of a multi-pronged approach. If you're trying to reach the actual students, then they're probably not opening an email. They're probably going to want to hear about it directly from you via some other social media outlet like Instagram or Snapchat. We have a livestock specialist here, or 4-H livestock specialist. She is amazing with Snapchat, and she has reached, I can't tell you, hundreds of thousands of kids just with her like Snapchat and Instagram alone. So it really depends on what you're sending them, but the youth probably aren't going to be opening an email. I know my daughter's 13. She has an email address, but she never checks it. But she is on Instagram all the time. So it's one of those things where if you have one thing you want to focus on, that's where I would probably put your effort and say, this is coming up, but then get that information to the parents. I think people use 4-H online to disseminate information, and that's still relevant. I think my kid's in 4-H, and so I get the 4-H online newsletters, and that's pretty helpful. For me, that's pretty targeted. So I know it's probably not a clear answer to your question, but it's hard to get stats on newsletters because it's sort of anecdotal, and you don't really have a way to track that. But we do have a way to track engagement with our e-newsletters, and I think some of our agents have had some pretty good success with their like fundraisers and things. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to move on a little bit to social media because this sort of crosses the boundary of communicating with some of our youth. So really quick, another poll. Do you have an extension social media account, like a business account, not a personal account, but one that's actually for business that you use for promotion? If so, which platform? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or other?
And I've also got, I don't have a social media account too, so we can, give those folks a hard time. Okay, just another 5 seconds, folks.
Facebook, my people. Twitter, Instagram, great. And then a few that don't have one. And honestly, I'm telling you, that's not really a problem, because if you don't have time for it, don't do it. That's my main takeaway from that. So that informs me quite a bit. So I'm glad I organized this the way I did. So the main thing that I do here is the kind of the overarching social media best practices, social media policy. But my experience is mostly with Facebook. So when I started here in 2014, we had about 1,100 people who liked our page. And of course, nobody has a budget hardly. So this is all, we now have, I think a little over 7,400 at this point, followers, and they're pretty engaged followers. We've grown this tooth and nail. We've gotten this number of people. Instagram has been a much slower increase. I have figured something out about Instagram, that on Instagram, at least anecdotally, I've found that people are on Instagram for specific topics. I'm on here for food. I'm on here for critters. I'm on here for cats. And so if you've got a one program area, you're actually better off than me, who I've got to cover all of extension. And the demographic for Instagram is quite a bit younger. So that's why our 4-Hers are pretty much on Instagram, and our agents and 4-H agents have a lot of success with it. For Twitter, we have several different Twitter accounts, and they're kind of, but this is our main one. As you'll notice, all of our URLs are all of our handles are very similar. You're not allowed, or you weren't at one point allowed, to have a dot in your Twitter handle, which is why it's an underscore. So we just keep the brand awareness, because this is also our URL. For Twitter, our row crop guys, I don't know if some of y'all are from states that don't have row crops. Our row crop guys, they are on Twitter. They're not on Facebook. Their wives are on Facebook, but our cattle ranching people are on Facebook. This is all stuff we figured out over time, and the bee people are everywhere. But beekeepers and stuff like that, our FCS people are more on Facebook. They're a little bit on Instagram. They're not as much on Twitter at all. So just because social media presence exists doesn't mean you have to be there too. It goes back to asking your clients where they are. So y'all might have noticed that the Facebook algorithm changes kind of a lot. And so one takeaway is that it is making it harder and harder for businesses to have relevance there and get shown in organic news feeds. So instead of focusing on what makes something popular or attention grabbing, you should make it personal and conversation worthy. And by that, I mean, you need to make it engaging. Comments, shares, reactions. Vague, where they see it, they click it, but they're not really doing anything. That's more passive. And so if you're able to start a conversation and you're making me want to share your content with my friends or my family or whatever, then that's what's going to be more important than just generic reach. I reached 10,000 people, but only one person commented. Well, that's really not a successful post then. So this is where the algorithm is going to reward you for having content that is shareable, and also making sure that it's actually humans sharing it with other humans, and it's not like a news story that's a news outlet is putting out there. So I'm going to share some anecdotal evidence of what has worked for us. And I'd love to hear if y'all have ideas or some comments about what's worked or not worked for you guys as well. So every audience is different, every state is different. So one thing that has worked for us is events, posting events in specifically Facebook. So you can feature an event in Facebook. As most of you know, I found out about like a cooking class, like a baking class on Facebook. And then I got reminders about it, and I signed right up. A lot of our events we're not able to sign up online, and we now have a new form software that we are making that more of a possibility. And so you can actually payment for some of those events online. So this is something that we're trying to close that loop. So instead of just like, hey, I'm going, it's going to be, hey, register me now. And so that's something that we're working on for this coming year. But the events have been pretty good for us. It shows the breadth of our programming. So like we have beekeeping, we have business and community building, we have pecan school. Didn't know there was a school for that, but there is. And so we also, I would love to get some of our FCS agents involved more with adding some of their like Mediterranean cooking classes. We also have yoga for kids. And so me and my associate Kim, she's in Hope, Arkansas, which is a couple of hours away. She helps manage the page as well. We don't always know what's going on. I mean, if you're a specialist or an agent and you're not communicating, broadcasting to everybody, hey, you know what, I've got this thing coming up, I want people to share it. Like, we don't know about everything that's happening. That's something that we're trying to fix, and having a more global event calendar where everybody can, we do have an event calendar, but not everybody updates it. So it's sort of this mishmash of finding out from people. If they let us know, then we'll feature it on our main extension page. So we have boosted events, and you can definitely reach more people with it. It shows worth, but also you can maintain interest right up until the event concludes. So if you can, please try to get online registration. We've had this before. We had a specialist that he was an agribusiness guy. And so he actually had money. And so he said, here, I've got $100. Let's get this out to a bunch of people. He was trying to reach like the nation though. And so it was a little tough to try and target that audience, but he did have, out of almost 7,500, 62 people didn't respond. And, he would have to crunch numbers and say, is that worth it or not? And honestly, again, our row crop guys aren't on Facebook. So he really needs to think about promoted tweets. And that's something that I haven't tried yet. We have a pretty standard, we have a communications team that does our Twitter accounts. So right now I handle the Instagram and the Facebook along with my colleague Kim. And we just haven't tackled promoted tweets. Let me know if anybody has tried that and what their experience with that is, because I would really, really be interested in knowing. But what has really, really worked are contests. So if you've got anything at all to give away, they are fantastic. People love free stuff, obviously. And we gained about 100 new followers in 2 days with a duck hunting giveaway kind of a thing, where my colleague Kim, she went around and got Arkansas, trail mix and extension branded blankets and stuff. Because some of y'all might have promotional stuff laying around the office. People just love free stuff, even if it's a cookbook, even if it's a site visit, even if it's a one-on-one consult at your home, at the person's home. Some of these are, people want to know, if people love winning things. And so it was, we did boost this. We got about $100 to boost it. And we had, on these two things, we actually had one for free garden show tickets. And she created a little video about it. And it was like, you have to like our page, and you have to comment, and you have to share. And we did get, $20, and we had, I think, 3 or 4 different winners. But I tell you, that giveaway that had the actual package of stuff, we got, like I said, in 2 days, we had 100 new followers, and it was, to me, worth it, by far worth it to spread our information out there. So this is the actual information from it. You can see the organic reach versus the paid reach. And you can see all of the different, I think it ran for, a week or two right near the holidays. And her husband actually made that leather, I'm not sure what that is, like a duck call something or another. I'm not really a hunter. So, but anyway, she got a decoy. She got all this extension branded stuff. She took this picture. And I think her office is right next to a rice field. So she was able to get this picture out there. And it really worked. It was something that it took some time, and you might not have time for this, but if you were really, really wanting to grow your audience, if you can throw together some sort of giveaway. We only boosted this a little bit, and it went pretty far. As you can see, 40,000 people were reached. But don't do a contest without rules, because someone's going to try and cheat the system. So make sure you have rules. The office, the place I used to work, that was a for-profit company. The rules were critical. You had to be very, very specific. When does it start? When does it end? To be qualified, you have to actually follow the rules and like our page. You have to live in the state. that could be one rule that you have. You could have it be, you have to live in the county. However you want to set up the rules, that's going to really impact how people interact with it. I have a copy of these rules. They're not live right now because the contest is over, but we customize these and we run it through our Legal Eagle team, and they gave us the blessing for it. So it may be different with your extension service. You might not be able to do a contest, but if you can, I highly recommend it. So another thing that's worked for us is videos, and try not to be too intimidated with videos. They don't have to be as complicated as you think they are. So we have, again, going back to our bee specialist, John Z. He shot this video of, he gets calls sometimes about bee swarms and things like that. And so he went, took a video. I think he had his son shoot some of this video as well. And there's no audio to it at all, but he put all of the text in a software called HitFilm. It was free. And he said it worked really great. He said now he has the free, the Adobe Creative Cloud. So I think he's got whatever the video software is with that one. But anyway, he likes that even better. He's pretty good with technology. I'm not sure how easy or hard HitFilm is, but he said it worked really great for him. And this thing, as you can see, got viewed quite a lot. And it's a kind of a long video, but it's super interesting to watch it because he knocks the whole hive out of the tree and it falls on this sheet. Anyway, it's really engaging. So when you're posting a video, what we had him do was send us that video directly. So you post it directly to Facebook. Facebook hates YouTube and YouTube hates Facebook. And so if you post a video from YouTube onto Facebook, it's not going to get shared as often because Facebook's going to try and hide it because you did a no-no and you posted it from YouTube. So you need to upload it if you can directly to Facebook. But then if you want, go ahead and upload it separately. It's a pain, but uploading them separately, it does make a difference if you're really trying to get some exposure out there. So not to leave out the FCS folks, it's not all about crops and insects. So we have a really wonderful FCS team here. I have found in our experience, our FCS team is a little more reticent to get in front of the camera. They're wonderful behind the scenes. So if you can just be okay being in front of the camera, that's wonderful. This video was shot with an iPhone and it was edited using iMovie. And it took about 30 minutes to shoot it and about 45 minutes to edit it. Here's a screenshot. This was actually taken in Agent Carla Dew's, her kitchen. So this was in her kitchen. She has this recipe for salt-free seasoning. Just a few ingredients. All she did was say what's in it, and as she just said, here's a great way, here's a great salt-free seasoning, and it got pretty good exposure, especially for Carla, getting her face out there. She's in Miller County, which is a couple of hours here from Little Rock. It's actually on Texarkana, the Texas-Arkansas border, and she's very, very popular. She writes a lot of different content, and she's wonderful with social media. So she was more than happy to be, she just talked off the cuff. It doesn't have to be scripted. You don't have to make it really difficult. Client testimonials are fantastic, and you've got some clients out there that are really happy with what you've taught. If you can get a video testimonial, this one was thanks to Extension. It was a video shot by Kim. And this was like an agritourism business. It's unedited. She just shot the video. If you can get one of those little lapel mics, they're pretty cheap. That sometimes wind can be a problem. But this was unedited, and it reached quite a number of people. This was actually a few years ago before we had as many followers as we did. But this was really one of the more popular videos and posts that we had in a long time. Because what happens is people saw this and they're like, oh my gosh, I know those people. I've been there. I've petted that cat. And so people really were enamored with it. And they thought it's like a little mini celebrity. And so people like seeing people they know on Facebook, strangely enough. So it reached almost 9,500 people, some good comments. They were all positive, and 68 shares. And so these two people have families who have families and friends. And so that's kind of the way this stuff works, is that they're sharing it with their family and friends. So you can also turn a fact sheet into film. Some of y'all might have tried this before. We have a training resource where we just did this video was webinar recently where we actually took a fact sheet, turned it into a little video or how-to video. Our agent, Terrell, he's the one on the left. He does a great job, but he is a planner. He plans all of his videos out very, very clearly, and he is very, very organized. Whereas Kim, she's like, oh, let's just give it a shot. And so Kim is my associate there. She's the one on the right, and they both presented in this. And if you go to ux.edu/soil test, you'll see one of Terrell's videos. But it's wonderful in bringing a fact sheet, which can be kind of dry and boring, to life. It could be a recipe even, where you bring it to life like we did in the other video. These are, we have wonderful content. It's just getting it and delivering it to people in a way that's going to make them want to engage with it. So storytelling is awesome on Facebook. And like I said, that algorithm change means that you need to be telling stories on social media. So appreciate a client. Again, client testimonials for your work is great, but why don't you say a shout out to a client? This one is from one of our ag agents who appreciated a farmer. And so this was several years ago, but she did this thing where she did Farmer of the Month, where she just picked somebody to profile. She just went, took a picture, got a little background on him, and people really liked it. Over 130 people liking this post just from a Facebook page from one of our agents was really good. It was really effective. So this is John Z. This is our bee guy I've been talking about. And I started the People of Extension a few years ago. And we actually started it in late 2016, early 2017. And I featured John Z. He's very, very popular, but he's not on Facebook. It still reached over 6,000 people, 43 comments, and 56 shares. The way I do this is I go out, I say, would you like to be featured in our social media? Some say yes, some say no. Luckily, he said yes. I went next door, took his picture, and just did an interview. I took a voice memo on my phone, probably like a 5-minute interview, deleted some of the stuff, pieced it together, and told a story. If you've seen those Humans of New York, this is following that vein. And these are really very popular because it shows appreciation for your colleagues and employees. You can do this if you've got a bigger program area. You can feature somebody specifically in your program area. These are great. We also have shared these a little bit on Instagram. This is a husband and wife specialist. This reached 21,000 people. Lots of comments and shares. I'm going to go back up again. And I just went to their county in Lono County, which is right next door to our county, and just did an interview with them, spent part of an afternoon with them. So it really depends on if this is going to work for you or not. But if you want to toss one in, hey, we have a great admin here. She helps us out so much. We'd really like to say shout out and thank you to her. And you know, people like that. Everybody was, you know, I was really surprised that some of these people really they're very honored to be asked to do this. Memorable content, circling back to the bees again. People love bees. So bee swarm photos. This was one that we saw from a master gardener in one of our counties, and they actually took this photo, and lo and behold, it reached 402,000 people. So we had no boosting on this. We had no money back behind this. 90 comments, 6,000 shares, and we got a troll. Y'all, we were so popular, we got a troll. So we now have an extension troll that shows up every so often. So that's how you know you made it on Facebook. So so you get little arguments happening, but you just have to keep an eye on it. So that's one of the things you have to be aware of, is if there's something happening with some of this stuff. So I'm going to look at the time. I'm going to hurry up here a little bit. So again, crepe myrtle bark scale. This is another thing. If you've got a problem you can solve with your content, please try and do that. This was a great one. I just took this picture in a parking lot, and I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to make a post about this. This is some really good stuff. And again, it reached a bunch of people, and we sent people back to our website for the fact sheet about how to get rid of crepe myrtle bark scale. A quick don't tag bait, don't comment bait. Please don't do this. And it's just something that's going to knock you down in the standings in Facebook, and Facebook will punish you for it. So just try not to do this. You can ask them for an answer, but don't tell them what to type. So, because that's just not best practice. Make sure you're using the right platform, going through the checklist. Don't use it if you don't have to, if you don't think you're going to have time. Only boost posts you really want to feature, do it sparingly. and get people to comment and share. That's the main thing. Don't be too passive. Tell them what you want them to do also on social media. We have a couple of trainings here. I'm going to kind of power through because I think we've got a couple of really quick, a lot shorter topics than this. This was the main topic I wanted to hit on because it will get some exposure for your program if you do use it appropriately. I don't know how many people collaborate, so I want to do a quick poll. When I talk about collaboration, does that means is there somebody else in your office that might help you manage a business page? Or is there somebody else in the office that is also responsible for the same content you are on digital media?
Okay, folks, I've lost that poll. We'll take another 10 seconds.
And it's okay if you don't. I'm just trying to find out, get a head count for who might be. Oh, great. Wow, there's more than I was thinking. Okay, awesome. So 77% versus 23%. And again, it is okay if you don't. Some of these tips I'm going to give you are actually going to be helpful for you as well, just if you're solo. I don't know if any of you have used Trello before. It's free, and it's a fantastic way to schedule out posts. You can go July, August, September, share that board with somebody or multiple somebodies, and that way you're not stepping on each other's toes. It's like, you know what, I'm going to handle these posts, you handle these posts, and it's a great way to see what's coming up. If you can plan out your content, that's great. Everything's seasonal with Extension, almost everything. And so this is a wonderful way to look ahead. Google Calendar. This was a big endeavor that we did last summer, and it paid off, but boy, was it complicated. I created these personas for social media where we have our do-it-yourselfers who want to know how to do rain barrels. Jennifer's more of our FCS person who's on Facebook and looking for childcare tips and recipes and kind of having fun. And so I color-coded them and then put them in this calendar. And then the yellow ones were kind of everybody, 4th of July, locally grown produce calendar. I'm not saying you have to plan it out this meticulously. I just tried this and it was great, but it just about knocked me down. So, but I shared this Google Calendar with my colleague, and she was able to see some ideas that I had, and so we weren't stepping on each other's toes again. And this was a great way to, sometimes the Google Calendar can be a little tricky though, but I like the Google Calendar a little bit better even than Trello, just, incidentally, but both of these are going to be great for collaborating. You can also collaborate in Canva if you get the paid Canva, where you can collaborate on graphics as well. Some critical team tips: please meet weekly, text and communicate on ideas, especially for social media, and curate content. If you've got an agent or a specialist that's doing really great with their content, go ahead and curate that. Last topic, and I'm going to try and hurry up through this. So accessibility, I'm just a reminder for accessibility for any content. Try not to put everything in a big picture, because when screen readers hit that picture, they can't read plant sale, they can't read Saturday 8 to 1. So you're missing out on some people who might be on Facebook and are using a screen reader to access your content. Same thing, don't post this to the website, it's not accessible. If you do post something like this to social media, make sure in the caption at least you go in and add some details. Hey, come to the plant sale April 28th, that's Saturday, whatever. So just make sure you repeat it in the caption. I'm going to give you 6 quick tips for accessibility. Plain language. Please don't use acronyms. Nobody knows what that is. Camel case hashtags. I have a slide for that. Include image descriptions like we talked about. Videos need transcriptions or captions. And you can go back and transcribe Facebook Live videos. And then link shorteners like we talked about earlier. It's great for accessibility. And if you've got, Instagram is not accessible. It's not social. It's the social media that is not accessible at all. So I would avoid it if that's your concern. Facebook mobile is more accessible, but at least provide the content on more than one channel, meaning find the content somewhere on your website to then share it with other people. If you're wondering what camel case is, it is upper and lower case for hashtags. So if you've got a super long hashtag, at least separate it out with, it's just more readable for everybody, but it's especially more readable for screen readers as well. So really a quick overview, our social media efforts in 2017. This doesn't even include our state social media accounts. These are all of our agents and specialists. Indirect reach was 381,000. Our social media reach, So our website reach was 381,000. Social media indirect was 5 million, 5.7, and then engagement and shares was 1.3. And again, this does not include our state office because we should be reporting, but we're not. So we'll probably have to start reporting that pretty soon. Really quick, final thoughts. If you take away nothing else, know your audience. It's going to help you target your time. Know your own time limits, know your own limits. Please be relevant. Please give them something that's relevant to them, and think about what can solve a problem for them. And by all means, create a call to action for all of your digital media, no matter what it is, because that's going to help you track engagement. We have a couple of training opportunities here for accessibility. I know eXtension and some others probably have their own as well, but just in case you wanted to know more, and I made it. I think we just have like a few minutes left if we have any questions. I know that was a lot of stuff, but I shot myself in the foot trying to figure out how to put all this stuff into a webinar that people would find useful. So do we have any questions?
Just real quick, let me throw in case folks ask, they probably will. Amy, if you'll send me whatever links you've got, any relevant links. Well, a couple things. Number one, if you'll send me your presentation, we'll put that in PDF form, put that on the Learn event. And then also it's nice to have actual links inside the description of the Learn event. If you'll sort of send me an email that's got all those, I can just paste them inside the Learn event. So I'll have that for a reference.
Yes, and in the final minutes, I'd also like to call attention to the chat box where I put a URL to a Qualtrics survey. The survey will help Amy as well as the Professional Development Committee from Epsilon Sigma Phi so that we can see what you thought of this webinar and just in general how we can provide future professional development to you. So please, if you have time right now, click on that link to the Qualtrics survey. It's just a few questions. I also will be sending that link to all of the participants later on when I email you. And in the email that I send to participants, there'll also be a link to the webinar recording. So that'll be something that'll come in the next day or two. All right. Before we sign off, I want to say a huge thank you to Mark and eXtension for supporting professional development and ESP. And also thank you to Amy. You're getting wonderful comments in the chat box. So thank you, Amy, very much for being part of ESP's webinar series.
Thank you for having me.
Amy, I have a question on cross-posting. And I'm thinking specifically about auto posting from like when there's a Facebook post, it automatically puts a link on your Twitter account. That's sort of a poor man's way to create content. Is that generally, or from your experience, would you tell folks, hey, if you can't put original content, don't do that, or something?
Yeah, it's not really a good idea if you can avoid it. Hootsuite is great. It's great for Twitter. It is not, the only time that's great is if you've got Instagram that goes to Facebook, because Facebook owns Instagram and it's going to be okay for that. But if you've got something on Twitter and you're just pushing it to Facebook, Facebook hates that. Facebook wants you, it's the diva of all social media, and so it wants you to actually log in and do it from there. So Facebook native video, Facebook native everything. It wants you to actually be in there and using the system. So that's what I would recommend.
In experience with live streaming on Facebook and that live streaming versus saying, okay, we're going to do a video, maybe do some editing and then post it.
It's a little bit, it depends. You need to get the permission for people. We have done some Facebook live video. We have a little bit of complaints sometimes if the people aren't okay being in the video that are at a training, for example. Sure. So, and audio can be kind of touchy, so it just really matters if you've got a nice lapel or a mic or something. We tried it for a while. Facebook loves it because it's going to be like, hey, so-and-so is live, and it loves it, but it has been not as successful as we'd hoped. So we would probably recommend just taking a video of it and then editing it down or something.
Yeah, we had one where there was a webinar I did, and I played just like this webinar. I played some music at the beginning. I just caught like maybe 10 seconds of, I'm not sure if it was Love Shack or what it was. Yeah. But because it was copyrighted material, they pulled. So we had this great video we posted to Facebook, and then about five minutes after it was over with, they pulled the content down, and we hit the video back either. So
that's another thing to mention. Yes, is even if it's copyright free, like if it's a royalty free video audio, then sometimes it messes up, and the bots or whatever that scan for it will block it. So we've had that happen before, where someone was using royalty free audio and it still blocked it.
I think they err on the side. My sense is the tech companies are they err on the side of, if there's any music there at all, we're just going to go ahead and pull it down, because I guess it's too much hassle.
Hey, Amy, real quickly before you're gone, Chad asked for a link to more training. I think that was in your PowerPoint a few slides back. So I think that will be coming out to Chad and everyone when we put a link to your PowerPoint presentation. If not, Chad, there are a couple. There we go. They're right there.
Our Tech Tuesdays is it's a kind of an ongoing. It's sort of a little blog feature that we've got. So it covers a whole bunch of stuff. It's got Canva. But anyway, it's got almost everything. How to take a good photo, videos. We've done it for a couple of years, and it's been a pretty successful thing. We just used our own talent and our own agents that we've got here and in Extension, just to kind of give their experience with stuff. So it's everything is in there.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Amy, Mark, and thanks to everybody who participated. We've gone over just a couple minutes, and we still have 39 out of 50 attendees listening. So obviously everyone was really engaged.
Great.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.